Mademoiselle, what?
Detective,
It is a rather late hour to be wandering.
Oh, yes. Of course. I do not feel myself.
If that is the case, you should be resting.
No, that's quite all right.
Lizzie, excuse me, Elizabeth. Lead.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
I'll see to the detective. You just.
Good night, Detective.
Bonne nuit, mademoiselle.
I'm sorry about her, Detective. As you can see,
This weekend seems to have taken quite a toll.
she'll be right as rain in a couple of days.
As if by magic you appeared when needed.
At this hour, Detective.
I shall be the one that determines what is and what is not.
As you wish, Detective.
And Mademoiselle Rihanna?
Yes, of course. I'll fetch her from the kitchen.
Very well. I shall speak with
While I am gathering the staff, Mr. Beckers is in the library. If you wish to join...
I wish to keep a clear head, but... Monsieur Beckers, it is rather late.
I didn't even see the time. It's easy to lose oneself.
That is something we can agree on.
I suppose I should be heading?
Un moment, monsieur. There...
Oh, what is it, Detective? I'm not sure what you mean.
A proposal to make you somewhat of a star, a figurehead.
There was certainly no talk of making me a star. That is not the type of... My speech? I'm not sure what speech.
You may save your false ramblings for your next audience.
Whoever told you that has it wrong, Detective.
Please, monsieur.
Okay, fine. Yes, the Major and I spoke, but it was not for long. I was trying to convince him to speak with Ernesto. It's time we brought the strikes to an end.
And that was best approached by a shouting man?
He wouldn't listen to what I said. I spent so long preparing how I was going to convince him.
It is said that money is the root of all evil.
Well, he was bargaining with people's lives. If he had acted sooner, none of those men... A deal? It was an insult.
And that is why you did not...
I didn't sign it because the workers deserve so much more. Not his
Did you think there was a chance for a better deal?
I know there was. He's a pompous swine that cares for only himself and filling it...
Mademoiselle Conrad can be quite convincing, can't she?
She has certainly taken several wealthy business partners by surprise with her knowledge.
But she did not surprise or use...
Me? Use me? Don't be ridiculous. No, she just reminded me of what I was fighting for. And I stand by that. It was an insult.
A rather bold move to make such a decision.
I may not be perfect, but I've done everything I...
Your efforts fell short in every respect. You claim to...
It's not as easy as just signing a piece of paper, Detective.
You yourself spoke of Mademoiselle Conrad's cunning.
And I told you, I was not one of her top...
Tell me then, what was it she reminded you of? The acclaimed man?
It wasn't like that at all.
From where I am standing, it was she that was manipulating the
Okay, yes, I know. I shouldn't have listened to her. But what else could I do? Remain an unknown?
It may not have been your intention, but we both know the result. You rolled the die.
What does that have to do with anything?
I have often wondered about the competition.
When you're young, it is the best feeling to know you have family. That it is not until everyone starts carving their own path that you realize. My older brothers were the athletes of the family. They both...
Oui, monsieur, but I can assure you that...
Then there was me. Quiet, timid, a shadow of the Becker brothers. My voice and very presence was forgotten and ignored. Years passed, and now that I no longer stood in the colossal ombre of my brothers, you hear politicians speak of the little or the common man. Well, that was me. And I knew what we wanted and what we needed. When I spoke, it was supposed to be my crowning achievement. Lead the men to victory over the money-grabbing...
Monsieur, it was not at your hands that these men died. The blame cannot lie...
Detective, what can we do for you?
You can help me by telling the truth, and in the process...
Sorry, Detective. It's a bit late in the night for...
It is no riddle, monsieur. If I do not receive the truth, you shall all be charged as accessory...
Detective, I think maybe you have been locked in this...
You have told me a version, and now... Mademoiselle, I shall keep my questions.
I don't know what else I can tell.
You have been honest with me so far. All I request is...
Oui, detective. It was frantic in the pantry. We were working hard to...
Go on.
Then Liz burst in, asking for
Her help with what?
I don't know. She took Liz to one side, and I was needed in the salon. With...
You did not question what she...
I was too busy. I love Liz, but she sheds a tear at almost everything.
Merci. I shall return. Mademoiselle, I shall be...
Okay. What... Merci.
Forgive me, mademoiselle, for not extending them earlier.
He was my only brother. And he died doing what he believed was right. You say the riots, but it was the strike he was part of. They started the riot.
By they, you are referring to the security.
Security, huh? They were brought in to make...
Why would they need to make an example?
So that the workers would stop rallying. No, the security you talk of were armed and... Yes.
This was before or after Archibald took him a bottle of whiskey?
Before.
You are sure?
It may have...
The whiskey is kept in the cellar with all the alcohol?
It is.
Then you must have noticed him going into the cellar and returning with a bottle.
Yes, I suppose I did. What is there to say? Being locked away...
That may be, but she came looking for your help.
She wasn't feeling well.
And she came to you.
I told you, we are a family here. The girls...
When I saw her earlier, I must admit she was not
No! Just leave the poor girl. She'll be...
Merci, mademoiselle. Order and method. I must take a different... I must act on... What a revelation! Come, my little Grace. This will not get me in. Order and method. I cannot see the logic. Things are beginning to become clear. Monsieur Sterling, is there anything you would like to add?
I'm not sure what you think I have done.
Let us not string out the...
From his associate. I've already told you.
Do not worry yourself on such details now. I suppose they were lucky to have called when they did.
Aye, detective. Whiskey?
You took a bottle of whiskey to the Major. You
Aye, of course. It was a bottle he picked up from his last visit to Scotland. Rather smoky Or was it the one from the West Coast? You'll have to Oh, you found it. Thank you, detective.
If I had lost a war medal, I would not stop until I found it.
It's not what you think.
Exploiting a dead man's military achievements for your own personal...
Nothing of the sort. He asked me to clean them up. I must have dropped it into... I wouldn't know.
Your father was in the military for many years. That is what you told.
He was.
And your family still keep his medals.
They were sold.
And why was that, monsieur?
Is my family on trial now, detective?
Only you, monsieur. And I repeat,
Because we need...
Voila.
No. He keeps them safe with some of his old military documentation.
Is that a typical job for the head butt?
He trusts me to do a good job. I told him I used to clean my father.
And where does he keep these items?
In the storage room. I know where everything is, so it's just easier if I fetch them for him. It's certainly better than my last.
You are paid a fitting wage for the work that is up.
I'm sure the lady of the house would not want me discussing it.
That is not the most convincing answer.
Between you and I, we all work very hard here.
Please don't go anywhere. If I require... I must take a different... I must take a different... Another success. Is there something I am not seeing? I should not be surprised by my own... Come, my little Grace. I must act on... Magnifique. Things are beginning to become... The pieces of the puzzle are... Some would say... What a revelation! Come, my little Grace. Is there some... I cannot see the lo... Is there some... What a revelation! This will not get... I must act... Come, my little... I must take a Is there something... I should not be surprised by my own... Things are beginning... The pieces of the puzzle are... I cannot see the logic in this. Order and method. I must act... Another success. Come, my little great... This will not get me any closer to my... I must take a different... Some would say a lucky guess. I would say a mo... Magnifique. Monsieur Starling.
Oh, Detective, I was
Please, I eagerly await to hear.
A butler's job is never...
I am no fool, monsieur. You have spun in...
Honestly, Detective, you don't trust it.
And with good reason.
I've been thinking about my time with the family.
I often think on fond memories.
There are many memories held within these walls. I didn't realize the noise I would...
Obviously. Were you
Of course not.
No, monsieur. You attempted to...
Please, Detective. I know you know how it ended up in my possession.
Theft of a medal would be the very least of...
Deceive? I'm sorry that...
Would you care to explain the fake telephone call?
Why would I fake a telephone call?
The same reason that Mademoiselle Rihanna dressed in the Major's jacket in the
I didn't kill him, Detective.
I know, monsieur. But I also know that you helped...
It wasn't like that. We were just trying to help. You never let on. How long have you known it was...
Monsieur, I am Detective Hercule.
You will be taking her away then.
She will stand trial for what she has done.
But you don't know the full story.
If Mademoiselle was only protecting herself, as you both...
The Major's military storage box.
The one that stored his medals.
Amongst other things, yes.
And those other things are?
I had to protect her. If you found it when searching this...
Whatever it is you have hidden... I need a moment. Aha. Order and method. That... I should not be surprised by... The pieces of the puzzle are... Huh. Hmm. Oh. Oh. What a revelation! I must take a different... I cannot see the logic. Is there something? I must act on. This will not get. Order and method. Magnifique. Some would say a lucky.
There is no use lying. He always had his regiment light.
And yet, it was not.
My father's. It must have fallen out of my
Monsieur, you have stashed evidence, manipulated a.
If it is my path to end up behind bars for what I have heard how you fought for that young maid. You found it.
Even the secret area that had.
I couldn't just leave it at the scene.
The Major was killed by his own knife. The knife that.
It was in his holster when he attacked her. He had hold of her arm. What else was she meant to use to get him off of? She didn't plan any of it, Detective.
That is what Mademoiselle told you.
She did, and I believe her. You think you knew the Major, but
That may be true, but
put yourself in her shoes for a minute. If a man like that...
I need a moment. Things are beginning. Come, my little. Another success.
There is no use When you asked me yesterday about...
That does not explain what you.
When Lizzie took me to the study, the knife was still in the Major's chest.
So you collected it under the cover of darkness.
After your questioning in the pantry,
And where did you plan on moving it to?
honestly... There is no use lying. Why what? Why I would
Exactement.
Because she is family.
I can assure you, monsieur,
Then perhaps that says something about you, Detective.
even if it means
Without question. Aye, Detective. But please,
if she is put behind bars,
Detective, you can't be so cruel.
it is not cruelty, monsieur. Some would say a lucky guess. Another success. What a revelation! I should not be surprised. The pieces of the... Magnifique.
Detective Poirot, I'm...
Bonjour, mademoiselle.
Please, Detective, I'm not sure I can...
I'm afraid this may be...
You have found Felix's killer, haven't...
I have. And
Detective, please.
it was Mademoiselle Elisa...
You must be mistaken.
I assure you I am not. When you spoke of the telephone lines being out of order, it made me question...
But it hasn't been working all weekend.
Exactement, mademoiselle.
She was meant to be resting in the staff quarters.
I am afraid that was yet another lie. Oh,
Why would you think that, Detective?
I only managed a few words with her before...
I must admit, he has a habit.
It was much more than merely disturbing our conversation.
So, Elizabeth killed Felix, and then Archie...
In its simplest form,
You have spoken with Elizabeth?
not Elizabeth.
I wasn't. What?
It was Monsieur Sterling that I found in there.
What on earth was he doing?
He claimed he was merely...
You don't believe him.
It did not take long for me to uncover the truth of why he...
Hidden area?
A room that held all of the majors...
I had no idea.
I did. Were you aware he was this...
Dishonorably? What does that mean? Yes, Gideon told me about the conversation.
Zachariah was adamant of the major's cruelty during the war, but the extent was...
Surely not. He would not do such a thing.
I am afraid not. They were in...
Oh, detective.
It is the reason he was discharged, denied his military pension.
He had been such an important part of my innocence. You said it was she that...
It was her hand that held the knife.
In all of the years I have known her, she has barely...
The whole truth cannot be known.
Will you allow me to be present?
I think that is an excellent idea.
Please, detective. I know she has done...
I will offer Mademoiselle Elizabeth a fair trial.
Thank you, detective.
Would you bring Mademoiselle Elizabeth to the
Of course, I'll find her.
Mademoiselle Elizabeth, merci.
Miss Angeline said you requested to see me urgently.
We have some serious matters to discuss, and I would...
Oh, yes, detective. Still not quite myself.
I was surprised when Monsieur Sterling hurried you to assist Madame Van...
I should not have avoided my duties for so long. The house does not stop.
That is true, but you cannot be expected to complete...
Honestly, detective, it was best for me to not sit and watch. Have you been able to uncover who the blackmailer is?
The blackmailer's identity has been established.
Wonderful news, detective. You can put it all behind...
I would not say thrilled, knowing that such a close...
Mademoiselle is correct. What I have learned over this weekend...
And, what of the Major's killer?
Well, Mademoiselle, that is why...
I'm not quite sure what you want me to say, detective.
Your honest opinion is all I ask, and...
We only spoke when there was something in the house to be done. We did not speak of
You knew of his work with Monsieur de Silva?
I only know what is required of me to know, and that is...
But you were aware of his work as security at Monsieur de Silva?
I was.
The factory your beloved Luke worked at?
Yes, detective. Yes, that is where he spent his last moments.
The resulting riots were a terrible tragedy. One that I hope we will...
Nobody deserved to die that day. Not my Luke. Detective, what kind of question is that?
It is a straightforward one.
He...
Mademoiselle, if there is something you...
I'm sorry, detective, I just don't know how to answer it.
Let us consider what we know of the Major. He fronted the militia. You finally had someone to blame for Luke's death.
No, detective. It wasn't like that.
Tell me what happened with the Major on the evening of his death.
I was only in here trying to prove what I heard Mr. Beckers say. I was going to...
I want to. I am still trying to understand it.
I was delivering Miss Angeline's dress to her room when I heard Mr. Beckers arguing with the Major in his... Mr. Beckers was talking about the factory strikes, and how it was the Major's fault.
I cannot imagine the Major would have taken kindly.
He didn't. He called him some... rather... After the altercation between the Major and Master Gideon, you went to speak with him outside, and I thought I could look around his study.
And did you find the proof you were...
I found a payment from Mr. De Silva, but there was nothing incriminating about that.
And then you saw the blackmail note.
I recognized the writing on the envelope. I couldn't believe it. How could...
Common sense would determine the Major was another victim.
If I'd have used common sense, I wouldn't have been snooping up... I heard the footsteps in the hall, and before I could move... The Major was standing in front of me, demanding to know why I was going through his belongings without permission. I tried to come up with an excuse, but nothing came out. I tried to move around him towards the door, but he hurled something towards me, and it crashed against the wall.
That would explain the damage to the wall.
I froze. I have never been so scared in all my life. I thought he was...
And you thought you would beat him to it?
Oh, detective, you make it sound as though I had it all planned. He lunged forward and grabbed me by the arm. I tried to push him away, but he was too... If only you had seen the look in his eyes, I dared not even scream. I saw the sheath on his belt. I didn't know what else...
So you took your opportunity to put an end...
I just wanted to get him off me. I didn't want to hurt him. I reached for it, and I...
You did not even look to see what state you had left him in?
She had just been attacked, detective.
Oui, please.
I ran down to the pantry looking for Rahana. I explained to her what had happened, and she went to find... We went back to the study. And Archie said that no one would believe me. That if someone like me killed someone like him, I would be sent straight to the gallows. He left the letter...
So I am to believe that it was Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna that cleaned the scene and orchestrated the plan.
I swear, I had no idea that is what they had done. Archie just told me to stay out of...
Then Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna will be charged for obstruction of justice and
Please, Detective! They were only trying to help me!
if they wish to help you, they should have brought all of this to my...
Surely you haven't forgotten what happened with Florette?
It is a day I have not forgotten, mademoiselle.
Without your help, I don't stand a chance.
Oh, Elizabeth, why didn't you...
I didn't think you would believe me. I felt so guilty. And when it was announced yesterday that he was a victim of the blackmailer, I wanted to... I'm sorry.
This will not get me. Things are beginning to...
Oh, yes, I don't know where it is.
If you have been honest with me until now...
I'm sorry, I really don't know. Archie dropped it out of the study. Please, I was only protecting...
Oui, mademoiselle. Mademoiselle tells...
I cannot imagine the Major acting in such a way.
After learning what I have about the Major's character, I know that you share a close bond with Mademoiselle Elizabeth.
She has committed a terrible crime, but she will live...
If what she says of the Major's attack is true, I will do everything I can to make sure... Mademoiselle, it is time.
Are you sure? What will you say?
I can assure you.
Elizabeth was right, though. She's just a servant.
Mademoiselle, when Detective Poirot, would you ask the guests to convene?
Of course. And what of the staff?
I have told Monsieur Sterling to remain in the staff. You have been of great help to me throughout.
You only need to ask.
While I am speaking with the guests in the library, would...
You don't think she will try and escape?
In her position, I do not know what she might try.
Detective, you have spent more time making us sit and wait for you than anything else.
Madame Van den Bosch, if you think I have spent my time focused on anything besides uncovering the Major's killer, you are sorely mistaken.
I'm sure you will be eager to share your findings with us then.
All in good time, Madame. Firstly, to understand the truth of what has occurred this weekend, one must know the timeline of events that not only preceded the Major's death, but succeeded.
We are all well aware of what happened before, Detective. You can save your breath.
You are only aware of what the guilty parties wanted you to believe. But now I shall apprise you to the true events. The reason for us all being here, you know. The altercation between Monsieur Demire and the Major, you know. The body of Monsieur Hagen was found while we were all sat enjoying a most delicious meal. That you also know. But what was kept from us all was that his body lay on the study floor for far longer than was thought.
It was that servant. She found him.
S'il te plaît, monsieur. It was indeed young Inga that found the Major's body lying lifeless in the study.
So it was her.
Monsieur, I will not allow for any further interruptions. I return to the Major's body. If we are to believe the scene that we were presented with, the Major must have been killed during the first course of our meal, a meal that none of you left, even for a moment. Speaking in the evening, You all confirmed one another's alibis, and although there was doubt in the validity of some, I confirmed that they were indeed all true. What I could not understand was how a man came to be found dead, and every guest accounted for at the time of death. That is until I questioned the latter. Monsieur Beckers, I shall now allow you to speak. You saw the Major smoking a cigar in the snow. Is that true?
It is.
False. You saw what you were meant to see. Someone in the Major's coat standing outside, giving the illusion that the Major was still very much alive. Monsieur da Silva, on the afternoon of the Major's death, do you recall hearing a telephone ring?
Now that you mention it, I have not heard a single ring all weekend.
Correct. The telephone lines have been down for the duration of our stay, meaning the telephone call that was received and promptly directed to the Major's study was yet another act of trickery and deceit. But it did not end there. When I entered the study for the first time, it was obvious someone had already been there and falsified the scene to stage a burglary and clear away important evidence, including the murder weapon. What followed was an investigation that had already been hindered. But even those lengths were not enough to derail me for long.
I think we have all had enough of your self-praise, Detective. Perhaps you would like to tell us who killed him now?
Madame, as I'm sure you would expect, it is not as simple as that. What many of you do not know is the discussion that was had between the Major and Monsieur Beckers earlier that day.
What has that got to do with anything? I told you I didn't kill him.
That I know to be true. What you do not know is that it was not only his ears that heard your spoken words.
I hope you are not implying I had something to do with it.
No, madame, there was another. Mademoiselle Elizabeth. You are all aware that the Major was hired by Monsieur da Silva to front the security during the workers' strikes. What very few of you know is that it was the Major's order that instigated the vicious attacks on those unarmed men and resulted in numerous deaths, including Mademoiselle Elizabeth's fiancé, Luc. Monsieur Beckers confronted the Major, declaring that he was to hand himself in. That is what Mademoiselle Elizabeth overheard. Now, knowing the truth, she waited until the Major was away from his study. After he stepped outside following the confrontation with Monsieur Demir's fist, it looked to be the perfect opportunity, or so she thought. The Major returned and found her looking for the proof she required to hand him over to the authorities.
If the maid bumped him off, why hasn't she been arrested?
The events that followed in the study are not those of a cold-blooded murder, but one of a young girl that had no other option but to protect her own life.
Sounds to me, Detective, like you have taken a shine to this young girl and would rather protest her innocence than arrest her for murder, the crime she has committed.
Jeez, this is gonna make for a juicy story.
Mademoiselle, I ask you this. You have seen the Major's anger before, oui?
What if I have?
How do you think he would have reacted if someone was to find proof that he had committed a terrible act, and that if made public, would surely result in his incarceration? Exactement.
It is quite the story you have told, Detective, but all I have heard is that Elizabeth overheard a conversation blaming the Major for her fiancé's death, and she murdered him in revenge. A servant killing a man that is as revered as he was. She will face the noose.
I am not denying that a man has lost his life, but it is not the crime of murder that you all believe. While the Major did not deserve to die in such a way, it was his actions towards Mademoiselle Elizabeth that drove her to defend herself in any way she could. Mademoiselle Elizabeth will be punished, but we will let the law decide the severity of her punishment.
She has played you like a fiddle, Detective, acting the innocent victim. She will be arrested and hanged for her crime, like every other cold-blooded killer.
Here.
Give her what she deserves.
The girl has got to pay for what she's done.
Those of you that are calling for the hanging of Mademoiselle Elizabeth.
Look, Detective, I see where you are going with this, but it's not going to work. So,
Mademoiselle Conrad, if you are...
you don't need to imply it's only me that does.
Even if in the process people... You knew the situation surrounding the strike. Mademoiselle?
You really are delusional. You obviously have no idea what goes on in my world. I would say stick to... Look, it's...
Mademoiselle, I do not have time for your excuses.
It's not... Okay, fine. Everything you said is true. I wanted the story. The scoop. I didn't think you had this side in you. I can see now why Angeline asked for you personally.
We can't just forget what that girl has done.
Monsieur Beckers, you are the last... We talked only last night, and correct me if I am...
Yes, we talked. It's just not fair of you to attack Jackie like that, but... Detective, I'm afraid you're misunderstood. It was not my intention for things to escalate as they did. Jackie was documenting everything to do with the strikes. She wanted our story.
And they were handled by your side?
Naturally. If I cannot... No, it wasn't like that.
This is not a tale that has been created. The facts I speak came direct...
Nothing is ever simple, Detective. You're right, Detective. I have tried so hard to deny my part, but I know I cannot excuse what I've done. I just want you all to know that I am not a hateful or malicious man. I only wanted to prove that I was the right man. Monsieur da Silva offered me a deal, and I turned it down. I thought I was doing right.
What more proof do you need? He said it himself. I made a general...
It was not that simple, though. An offer was made. But Monsieur Beckers and the workers would never have been forced into that position.
This is outrageous! Do you plan on It may be a big deal to you, but I am you. When you're in charge of your own factory, you're on... If you think otherwise... You said it. Anonymous. I don't know them, and it doesn't sound like they know me.
Monsieur da Silva, you seem to...
I recall them just fine, thank you. A police officer Is that what you plan to do? Accuse us all of something?
The events that led to the Major's murder are not as simple as you...
Apparently anyone can become a detective now.
Through order and...
Order?
Monsieur da Silva, you have stood steadfast.
Detective.
It was not my intention. I only want to... Does your position on Mademoiselle Elizabeth...
Even after all your attempts, Detective, Felix was still murdered. Self-defense or not, she chose...
It was not choice to hide anything, madame. If in her position I ask, what would you...
I wouldn't have driven a knife into him, that I can... Quite presumptuous of you to assume
Putting my own feelings towards the Major aside, he was... So, even you confirm...
I'm sure that is none of my business.
The Major shot and killed a number of... His actions are unforgivable.
You judge him so harshly. He had made mistakes. You do not know what he...
S'il te plaît, madame.
My friend has been murdered in... I will see to it. Elizabeth will have...
I knew that you had a cold heart, but never would I have expected to see you turn...
Excuse me.
She may have been the one that held the knife. He bribed, he extorted, he murdered...
I'm sorry, Margot.
Because that girl does not deserve your judgment.
Countess, I have talked at length of the Major's death. When I last gathered you all together, I spoke of a blackmail. Mademoiselle Angeline requested my help personally after she...
Get on with it, detective. Who dared...
If it was not for the honesty of a young servant...
For goodness sake,
Margot.
While it looked as though the Countess was helping the young women at the shelter, Monsieur da Silva fell victim to her network of moles and was in turn blackmailed.
That cannot be true, Margot.
That is rich, coming from...
You are one of my oldest...
High and mighty Madame Van den Bosch.
If I do not get a straight answer out of you...
I'm surprised it took the Major this long to start...
How dare you?
A home you share with the father of your daughter for...
You have no right...
Maman,
Angeline? Have you heard what she has admitted to? She is merely trying to make herself...
is what she says true? Felix, he was my father? That is the secret that the letter was talking about, isn't it? You told me that we had nothing to hide. Detective Poirot, were you aware of this?
Oui, mademoiselle. But it was not my place to repeat.
I don't understand. What about father?
Your maman betrayed the love of a good, honest man and played away behind his back and then kept it hidden for all these years like a lady of the night with her client list.
You will say no more. Angeline, I...
Did Felix know?
This is not an appropriate conversation.
He knew, dear girl. He knew the whole time. It is only dear Edwin that was blind to their deceit.
You will not talk of him like that. You will not talk of him at all.
If I don't, who will? You never deserved him. You don't even deserve the memory of him.
Countess, there is something that you still have not explained.
What more is there for her to say?
How long were you in love with the Viscount for?
Margot? Is that true?
We were destined to be together. And then you turned up. And I was all but forgotten about.
But you were nothing more than friends.
And you made sure of that, didn't you? From the day you arrived, it was all about what you wanted and what you had to do to get it. You didn't consider Edwin at all. He was just a purse to you.
I loved my husband, and I miss him every day.
Loved him enough to stray?
Both of you, no more.
Please, Angeline, let me explain.
Maman, I do not wish to hear anything else from you.
Not even your own daughter wants to hear your lies anymore. Cassandra Van den Bosch, all alone.
How dare you!
While I feel a sense of satisfaction and pride in solving both cases, there is still a part of me that is reluctant to revel in triumph. I am content with the unmasking of Countess de Vos as the blackmailer, and knowing that she will pay for her crimes. But it is the justice for Mademoiselle Elizabeth that worries me. She will stand in a court of law, and I can only hope that they can see she acted in self-defense. I must trust that our legal system and justice will prevail, and a fair sentencing will be given. In protecting her own life, she took the life of another. Perhaps the guilt she must live with is a greater punishment than any sentence she can receive. Countess de Vos was taken from Nemozinet House in cuffs and placed under arrest. Although she initially tried to plead her innocence, Inge, along with a number of other girls that the Countess had found employment for, came forward and made full statements. She was charged with 5 counts of blackmail and extortion and sent to a house of corrections, where she will have a new life to become accustomed to. Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna were also reprimanded for their participation. While they may not be facing time in prison, tampering with a crime scene and obstruction of a police investigation are certainly not something that houses and new employers will look positively on. Mademoiselle Angeline finally became Madame Demire, and together they took up residence in England, where Monsieur Demire continues to support and fight for fairness and equality in London. I am happy to say that we have remained in contact, and Madame Demire has become a regular correspondent of mine, and the latest joyous news is that they are expecting a child of their own. After Madame Vandenbosch's secret was revealed to the world, her position in the social hierarchy was no more, disappearing in a moment. While she still resides in Belgium, I believe she has had to adapt to a far more modest way of life. A humbling experience for her, I am sure. Madame Demire has not mentioned her maman in a single letter. After the discovery of her real father and how she had been lied to for so many years, I am not surprised if her departure from Belgium was somewhat an act of separation from her maman. Mademoiselle Conrad left Nemozinet House the same way she entered, confident in herself and audacious in her opinions. Her report of the Major's murder at the house and the surrounding blackmails became one of the most talked about stories of the year. While there were certain details of her own involvement that did not make it to print, she was really quite complimentary about the detective at the heart of the case. Monsieur da Silva tried to continue in his position as factory owner and business entrepreneur, but after his accounts and business dealings were investigated following the details of his blackmail being made public in Mademoiselle Conrad's article, his illustrious business empire began to crumble and is now facing an international corporate investigation. Monsieur Becker stepped down from his position as union leader, accepting that he was no longer fit to represent the workforce that, in his words, he had let down on a scale of unmeasurable proportion. Although he is no longer the voice of the workers, he continues to support them from behind the scenes. Monsieur Zachariah and his brother made amends, and returning to his family home, and after sobering up, he was able to find the help that he required. I understand that he is now helping fellow soldiers with similar conditions. And Mademoiselle Elizabeth. She stood before a court and was found guilty of second-degree murder. She was sentenced to time in a female correctional house on the outskirts of the city. Alone in a foreign country with no friends or family for support, it will certainly be a hard life for her there. Her mental and physical strength will surely be tested to their limits, but she could not go unpunished. Without repercussions, we would become a society of animals. The death of Elizabeth's beloved Luc has been at the center of everything. Had those in positions to help not acted with only themselves in mind, perhaps he would still be alive today, and the Major would have paid the price for his own crimes in the eyes of the law, not at the blade of a knife. The blood of Major Felix Egan will remain on Elizabeth's hands. A stain that wherever she is and whatever she may do, she will never be able to wash clean. However, it will remain as a reminder to not only her, but all of us, of what we as human beings are capable of to protect ourselves. We all have something that may be considered shameful or sinful, and it is how we deal with it that shows our true character. Those involved in the riots, the workers' deaths, and the major's killing believed themselves to be untouchable. Whether it was from their social standing or their confidence in themselves, they learned that everyone is accountable for their actions. There is no exemption because of the suit you wear or the money in your bank account. There is no price to a man's life. It cannot be bought or traded or discarded. No man is better than another, including Detective Hercule Poirot.